That night, the highway looked endless. No cars, no lights, just the faint reflection of the moon on the asphalt. I had been driving for hours, trying to get home after visiting my parents. The silence in the car felt heavy, almost unnatural. I remember checking the rearview mirror. At first there was nothing. Then, a pair of lights appeared far in the distance. Headlights, bouncing slightly as if from a massive truck. I didn't pay much attention. Highways attract trucks at night, and I had seen plenty before. But as the miles rolled by, those lights drew closer, fast. The vehicle was huge. A semi-truck, towering in the mirror, its headlights almost blinding. It swerved slightly in its lane, then flashed its high beams at me once, twice, 3 times. My hands tightened on the steering wheel. I pulled into the right lane to let it pass, but it didn't. The truck stayed behind me, following every move. The engine roared, the sound shaking through my car as if it were only inches away. I pressed the gas, the speedometer climbing, but the truck stayed glued to me. Then, something stranger happened. I slowed down, heart pounding, ready to pull over to the shoulder. The second I began to brake, the truck's lights blinked out, not dimmed, not faded, gone. The highway behind me was empty. I sat frozen, staring at the mirror, waiting for the roar of the engine or another flash of headlights. Nothing came. Just blackness stretching back forever. My phone lay in the passenger seat, but I didn't touch it. Calling someone would mean admitting that what I saw was real. Minutes passed. I convinced myself it was a trick of the eyes, maybe exhaustion. I drove on, watching the mirror more than the road ahead. My chest began to loosen, my breathing steadied. That's when the lights came back, not gradually, instantly. One moment the mirror was dark. The next it was filled with those blinding beams, shaking violently as if the truck was right on top of me again. My foot slammed on the gas without thinking. The speed climbed, 70, 80, 90. The road blurred under me, but the truck matched every move. I could see details now. The cab was old, dented metal reflecting pale silver in the moonlight. Rust ate at the bumper. The windshield looked cracked, spiderwebs of broken glass catching the light. And for a split second, I thought I saw a figure behind the wheel. A man, slumped forward, face pale, eyes locked on me with an emptiness that made my stomach twist. I tried to shake it off. Maybe I was hallucinating, but the light stayed with me, mile after mile. My hands slick with sweat. I gripped the wheel harder, whispering to myself that I just needed to reach the next town. Then I remembered something. A friend once mentioned this stretch of highway. He said truckers avoided it when they could, that it had a reputation. I had laughed at the time, brushing it off as a story meant to scare young drivers. Sitting in that car, with the phantom truck on my tail, I wasn't laughing. The highway sign ahead told me I still had 20 miles before the nearest exit. 20 miles of being hunted. The road stretched on like a tunnel of black. My headlights lit the cracked pavement, but everything else felt swallowed by the night. Behind me, the truck surged forward, lights blazing. Every few seconds, the high beams flicked on and off, stabbing into my mirror. I could almost feel the heat of its engine on my back. I thought about pulling over again, but the memory of how it vanished before stopped me. What if I stepped out and found nothing there? Or worse, what if I stepped out and it was waiting? The truck's horn blasted. A deep, distorted howl that rattled the inside of my chest. I jerked the wheel, barely keeping my car straight. My pulse hammered. I shouted out loud, a desperate sound, but no one could hear me. Then, like before, the lights vanished. The road was clear. Silence returned, heavier than before. The sudden emptiness made me question if I was losing my mind. I drove slower, trying to think. My eyes scanned the mirror every second, expecting the blaze to return. The silence pressed in, almost louder than the roar of the engine had been. I could hear my own breathing, shallow and uneven. 10 minutes passed, no truck, no lights. Just the hum of my tires. But when I relaxed, it came back, not behind me this time, ahead. The semi appeared in the distance, parked across both lanes as if blocking my path. The headlights pulsed like living things, flickering in a slow, unnatural rhythm. My throat dried. I slammed the brakes, the tires screeching, the car fishtailing as I tried to stop. The truck didn't move. When I came to a halt, the road ahead was empty. Nothing stood there. My headlights hit bare asphalt. I sat shaking, gripping the wheel, sweat dripping down my temples. I thought about turning back, but the idea of retracing the same cursed miles made me sick. I forced myself forward. The next few miles blurred into each other. My eyes burned, and my hands ached from holding the wheel so tightly. I told myself that if I could just reach the exit, I'd be safe. Town lights, people, anything. But the truck wasn't finished. It appeared again in the mirror, closer than ever. The beams lit up the interior of my car, shadows dancing across the dashboard. This time I didn't run. I slowed, my body trembling, daring it to reveal itself. As my speed dropped, I saw the figure clearly. A man, face pressed against the shattered windshield. His skin looked gray, his mouth twisted open as if locked in a silent scream. His eyes were fixed on me, wide and empty, glowing faintly with the same pale light as the headlights. I blinked once, and he was gone. The truck, too. The highway was silent. Finally, a green sign appeared, glowing faintly in my headlights. The exit. Relief surged through me. I pulled off the highway, speeding down the ramp into the small town below. Streetlights flickered here and there, weak but real, grounding me back in reality. When I reached the gas station, I parked and stumbled out. My legs felt like rubber. The attendant looked at me with confusion as I staggered inside, pale and shaking. I didn't explain. I couldn't. Later, while sipping a bitter cup of coffee, I scrolled my phone, searching for anything about that stretch of highway. The first article I found froze me. It told the story of a trucker named Harold Briggs. Years ago, his semi jackknifed on that very road in the middle of the night. Witnesses said he tried to steer clear of a small car that cut him off. His rig flipped, slid for nearly 100 yards, and erupted into flames. He never made it out. Since then, drivers had reported the same thing I saw. Headlights that appear and vanish. A truck that chases you for miles. A pale man slumped behind the wheel, forever trapped in the cab. I closed the article and stared out the window at the quiet town. The gas station lights hummed, steady and real. But the memory of that face behind the cracked glass wouldn't leave me. Even now, when I drive alone at night, I check the mirror too often. Sometimes I swear I catch a flicker of light in the distance, waiting for me to be alone again on that highway. It was close to midnight, and the highway was drowning in rain. My wipers barely kept up, and every passing mile felt longer than the last. I should have driven straight home, but the storm made me slow down, and that is when I saw him. A figure stood on the shoulder, half hidden by sheets of water. He wore a dark raincoat, hood pulled low, and his arm lifted with a stiff, almost mechanical motion, asking for a ride. Most drivers would have kept going, but the rain, the cold, and maybe a strange sense of guilt pushed me to brake. When he opened the passenger door, the smell of wet fabric and earth filled the car. He didn't say a word, only nodded once and settled in. The hood shadowed his face, and the rain dripping from him soaked into the seat. I tried to speak. "Rough night, huh?" No answer. I asked where he was heading. His voice came after a long silence, calm and low. "The old bridge." That was all. No town, no street, just the bridge. The drive stretched in heavy silence. The storm hammered the roof, and headlights cut through the water like knives. Once I glanced sideways, but he sat so still that it felt unnatural, like he wasn't breathing. I told myself I was being paranoid. People act strangely when they're cold and wet, but something about him made my hands tighten on the wheel. After several miles, the shape of the bridge emerged through the downpour, its rusted steel frame rising out of the dark. He finally spoke again. "Here, stop here." I pulled to the shoulder. He didn't move, only waited. I figured the rear door lock was stuck, so I stepped out into the rain to open it from the outside. Cold water stung my face as I hurried around the car. But when I pulled the handle, the seat was empty, no door had opened, no sound of footsteps on the wet ground. He was gone. My heart raced as I searched the road and the bridge, but there was nothing. The storm drowned everything, leaving only my engine running. Then I looked down at the seat. A folded map lay there, soaked through, water spreading into the paper like veins. I picked it up, hand shaking. A red mark circled a spot not far from the bridge. The caption, written in smeared ink, said only one thing: collision site. My stomach dropped. I knew the story. Years ago, a bus and 2 cars had crashed on that curve. Dozens of people died. Locals still whispered about it, claiming the dead never left. The rain felt colder now, and I realized I was standing at the edge of the same bridge, with no one else around, clutching a map that should not exist. That was only the beginning of what happened that night. The storm kept pounding, but I couldn't leave. My hands gripped that ruined map, and the red circle drew my eyes again and again. I told myself to get back in the car, drive home, forget the stranger. But some force pulled me toward the bridge. I stepped onto the slick pavement. The steel beams groaned in the wind, and water rushed black and endless below. Every instinct screamed to turn around, yet my feet carried me forward. Halfway across, the rain shifted. It no longer sounded random. It beat in a rhythm, like faint footsteps echoing against the metal. I froze. The bridge was empty, but the sound grew clearer, closer, until it matched the weight of someone walking right beside me. I whispered, "Who's there?" My voice vanished in the storm. Lightning split the sky, and for an instant I saw him again. The figure in the raincoat, standing at the far end of the bridge. When darkness returned, he was gone. I should have run. Instead, I unfolded the map fully. The ink bled across the paper, but more marks appeared now, as if rising through the water. Small red X's, each one scattered along the highway. Each one a place where lives had ended. One mark was fresh, brighter than the rest. I followed it with my finger, and my blood chilled. It was right where I stood. A gust of wind hit, hard enough to stagger me toward the rail. The bridge shuddered under a sound like metal screaming. I gripped the side, my knuckles white, while rain lashed my face. Then the air shifted. Behind me, I felt it, the weight of someone leaning close, breathless and cold. My skin crawled. I turned. Nothing. But the passenger door of my car was open now. I hadn't left it like that. Water ran across the seat, and the map was gone. I stumbled back inside, slamming the locks, trying to calm my breathing. The windshield blurred under the storm. But in the rearview mirror, I caught sight of movement. A shadowed figure sat in the back seat, silent, dripping. I spun around. The seat was empty. My chest tightened. I started the engine and drove. The bridge disappeared in the mirror, yet the weight in the car didn't. The air stayed damp, heavy, as if someone unseen rode with me. Mile after mile, the silence pressed in until my ears rang. Then the radio crackled to life. I hadn't touched it. Static hissed, then broke into voices. Dozens of them, layered and jagged, whispering fragments of sentences. Names, please. Screams cut off mid-breath. I twisted the dial, but nothing stopped it. The voices grew louder, urgent, until one cut clear through the noise. You shouldn't have stopped. The wheel jerked in my hands as if pulled. Tires screeched on the wet road. I fought to steady the car, heart slamming against my ribs. For a moment, I thought I'd lose control, slide into the guardrail. But the car straightened, and the voices cut it off. The radio fell silent. I drove the rest of the night without stopping, every shadow on the roadside making me flinch. When dawn broke, pale and weak, I finally pulled over at a gas station. The clerk gave me a strange look when I walked in, drenched and shaking. "You all right?" he asked. I nodded, though my throat was too dry to answer. I went back to the car, telling myself it was over, but when I opened the door, the map waited on the seat again. Dry this time, edges crisp, as if it had never touched water. The red circle glared up at me, and new words had appeared beneath it. "Next time, you don't leave." I slammed the door and drove away, but deep down, I knew it wasn't finished. The storm had passed, yet the air in the car never felt warm again. And every time I look in the mirror, I half expect to see him there, waiting to guide me back to that bridge. Because once you give a ride to the lost, they never really leave. The night had that sharp silence you only feel after hours of noise and music. We had just left the festival grounds, tired, half drunk on exhaustion, not alcohol. The car smelled of sweat, dust, and the faint trace of fireworks. The main highway back home was clogged, endless red brake lights stretching to the horizon. None of us wanted to sit there for hours. That was when Lena pointed. "Look, that road." No cars, no traffic. The moonlight caught a narrow strip of asphalt leading into the woods. It wasn't on the GPS. The map app showed only green patches, no line cutting through. But the pavement looked fresh, like it had been laid last week. I was behind the wheel. "Shortcut?" I asked, half joking. "Do it," Mark said from the back seat. He was always the one pushing for the strange option. Worst case, we hit a dead end. So I turned. The tires crunched over gravel, then settled into smooth blacktop. The highway disappeared behind us. The trees leaned close, their tops swallowing the sky, leaving only the pale slice of moon overhead. At first it felt like we had made the right call. No cars, no lights, just the cool air through the windows. Then the first turn came. A slow curve left, another tighter one right after. "Feels like a racetrack," Lena laughed, but her voice was thin. We kept driving. 10 minutes. 15. The curves repeated. Left, then right, right, then left. It felt familiar. Too familiar. I glanced at the dashboard clock. Only a few minutes had passed, yet my stomach told me more time had slipped. Then we saw the car. It was parked on the shoulder, headlights blazing into the night. A silver sedan. The windows were black, the inside too dark to see. Someone broke down? Mark leaned forward. I slowed, peered inside as we rolled past. Empty. No driver, no passengers. The engine hummed, lights burning, but not a soul in sight. "That's creepy," Lena muttered. I pressed the gas. The road twisted again, same pattern. Left, right, right, left. Then another car, different make this time. A dark SUV, headlights on, pointed toward us like blind eyes. Also empty, doors shut, windows sealed, no tracks on the asphalt. "Okay, that's weird," I said, gripping the wheel tighter. Mark laughed, but it sounded forced. "Maybe it's some prank, like abandoned cars with batteries rigged to the lights." We kept going. The silence in the car grew heavy. Even the radio wouldn't pick up a station, just static. 20 minutes later we saw the third one, a red pickup. Its headlights cut through the trees, spilling light across the asphalt. Empty. Perfectly placed, as if waiting for us. That was when Lena whispered, "We're driving in circles." I checked the GPS again. Still nothing, just a green void. The road didn't exist. But every turn, every stretch of trees felt identical. And now the cars, more of them. At first one, then two, then four, all lined up on the sides. Headlights pointed inward, trapping us in a tunnel of white glare. My chest tightened. The wheel vibrated under my palms. The engine hummed too loud. Mark finally broke the silence. "Don't stop, just keep driving." I didn't argue. The farther we went, the stranger it got. The cars weren't just random anymore. They were arranged, first in pairs, then in clusters. Always facing us, like an audience waiting for the show to start. Lena's hand found my arm. "What if—" She swallowed hard. "What if they're not empty?" I almost asked what she meant. But then I saw it. One of the cars. The silver sedan we had passed first. It was there again, same dent on the bumper. Same crack in the left headlight, same position. We hadn't just seen cars, we were looping through the same ones, over and over. The steering wheel felt heavy, as if the road itself wanted to keep us on track. I pressed harder on the gas. "Wait," Mark shouted. Up ahead, across the asphalt, stood something new. Not a car, a figure. Tall, pale under the moon, standing perfectly still in the middle of the road. I slammed the brakes. The tires screeched, the car jolted, everyone lurched forward. The figure didn't move. It wasn't wearing anything I could name. Its clothes were plain, colorless, blending into the night. Its face, I couldn't see it. Just a blur, like the moonlight refused to land there. "Go around," Mark hissed. I gripped the wheel. My heart pounded so hard I felt it in my teeth. Slowly, I steered to the left, edging toward the shoulder. The figure didn't react. We rolled past. For a moment I thought it was over, then Lena screamed. The rear-view mirror showed it standing directly behind us. No footsteps, no sound, just there, watching. I pushed the gas. The speedometer climbed. The road coiled again, but I didn't care. Faster, faster. Another curve, another cluster of cars. Headlights blazing, empty interiors glowing like hollow eyes. And between them, more figures, dozens now. Each one motionless, faceless, standing shoulder to shoulder along the asphalt. They didn't block the way. They only watched. Mark cursed under his breath. He stopped laughing. He stopped pretending. "Keep driving," Lena whispered, her nails digging into my arm. The road stretched longer than it should have. The dashboard clock blinked past midnight, but time felt broken. The air inside the car grew thin, suffocating. The radio crackled to life. Not music, not voices, just whispers layered on whispers, too many to follow. Then the loop closed. I recognized the dented silver sedan again. Same position, same glow. The circle was perfect. We weren't leaving. My throat was dry. My hands shook on the wheel. "What if it doesn't end?" Lena whispered. That was when the headlights ahead blinked, one by one. First the sedan, then the SUV, then the truck. A chain of cars flashing in rhythm like signals. And between them, the figure stepped forward. Just a single pace, but enough to close the space. They were closer. I pressed the gas to the floor. The car roared, engine straining. The speedometer climbed past 90. My vision blurred. I aimed straight through them, refusing to slow. The world bent. The trees folded in on themselves. Headlights fused into white fire. The figures melted into a wall of pale light. The sound was unbearable, a high-pitched scream that filled the car. And then silence. The road was gone. I blinked. We were back on the highway, staring at the red glow of brake lights stuck in traffic. The GPS showed us exactly where we should have been, miles from that phantom road. No one spoke for a long time. Mark's face was pale. Lena hugged herself tight, eyes fixed on the window. I checked the clock. Only 10 minutes had passed since we'd left the festival. But the fuel gauge told another story. The tank was nearly empty. We hadn't dreamed it. That road had been real. And part of me still wonders if we actually made it out. Or if we're still driving, forever trapped, only pretending we found our way back.